What's up everyone, welcome back to boostgumps. Today's video we have the mighty LSA Blown VE back again. For those of you that are fairly new here, you can go back and watch the entire build series on this car. This is an LSA Blown L98 6L80 VE that we built a little while ago, just a stock bottom end L98. Just a nice little cam, one of our complete cam packages, and then an LSA blower, and it's also flex fuel and everything else. So it's been a while since this car appeared on the channel. Now what happened is, before Power Play earlier this year, we tried to get this thing tuned on the E85 because we hadn't finished the E85 tune when it left last time. So we're trying to get the thing tuned on E85 for Power Play, and there was a bit of a rush to try and get it sorted before we went down there. Now we had a monumental time trying to get this thing to hook up on the dyno. We just could not get it to hook up on the E85. We tried for ages, but unfortunately we were just too rushed and ran out of time, and we pretty much sent it down there with a tune that was pretty good, but we didn't have an accurate idea of how much power it was making. We predict it was somewhere around the 630 at the wheels mark, but the biggest number we got on the dyno was 616 with heaps of tyre slip. So he took it down to Power Play. It came back with a very unhappy gearbox. So it's now got a built Craig's Automatic 6L80 in it. So they rate that gearbox at 650 wheel horsepower. So it should be enough for this thing for what we want to do with it. So the gearbox is all sorted. We had to put the gearbox back in, and Craig's just wanted it driven around for a while to let the adaptive gearbox controls do their thing, and you know, let the gearbox do whatever it does. We don't know much about gearbox building here. We aren't gearbox builders, but I'm assuming obviously there is a bit of a run-in period for whatever reasons. Clutches and stuff like that in the gearbox need to be bedded. So we got it back, put that in, and it's been driven around, and now it's finally back here so that we can finally finish off the flex fuel tune. So in that time as well, the owner has actually redone all of the rear end. We've now got coilovers in this thing instead of just the King springs and shocks that were in it. He's redone all of the subframe bushes, all of the rear bushes and the rear arms. So hopefully with the rear end now all sorted out, we can actually get this thing to hook up today. Righto guys, so I've only just got back. I've actually been out and about, but in the meantime Rex has pretty much just gone through the 98 tune again, made sure we're happy with it, and he's super stoked with it now. Alright, so we've got the 98 out, now to fill it with E. Alright, so chucked the E in and started running it up, just did some steady state stuff, had a look at just the modelling and E85 stuff in the tune, because we have changed quite a bit of all the modelling and scaling and everything from the last tune, so that's why we sort of decided to go with the 98 first and pretty much start again. Rex changed a lot of the scaling stuff so that the E85 modelling was closer this time, so it's pretty much been a full retune. So anyway, to put the E85 in, pretty much just started running it up, doing some steady state stuff. You know, the single retarder dyno is meant to be rated for 600 horsepower steady state. Obviously horsepower is a relative term. It really comes down to torque, and this thing is making a buttload of it. So did a little bit of steady state, went to go start doing some actual power runs, and it has a little indicator for us when the retarder's getting too hot, and it's pretty much just saying the retarder's too hot at the moment. So giving it a minute to cool down, but it appears that pretty much this thing is approaching the limit of the ability of the single retarder dyno. It wouldn't hold a steady speed. The retarder couldn't hold it at a steady speed while it was in steady state. Rex was planting his foot and the thing was just taking off. We're just at the limit of the single retarder dyno, which means that we need to hurry up and get ourselves a hub, but hey.
That was the tractive effort. Peaked at 2748 tractive effort in 500 wheel, which is like that. I reckon this is what's doing it. That tractive effort's just off the charts.
So Rex had it set to like 60k an hour, and you just plant your foot and it just starts taking off, and it was just going. So anyway, it's what it is. It probably means we're just going to let the retarder cool down and then keep going with our actual power runs, but we're just going to have to be mindful of that in the lead up to the power runs and stuff like that. Obviously it's not the end of the world, it's not a big deal. It's the first for us with this dyno, but we know for a fact that way more horsepower, high torque cars have been on this thing before. It's just a matter of working around the limits of the dyno and the way you tune. It'd be nice to have a twin retarder one or a hub dyno or something where you could not have to worry about that and just keep on doing it, but you can't just set it in steady state and keep flogging the retarder. That's how you kill these things. So it just is what it is. Anyway, we're ready to do power runs anyway, so. we're gonna have to tighten them straps again. Alright guys, so we are having pretty much this very similar issue that we had the last time we did it on E, which you guys didn't see, but as you can see here, just leaning out, following this trend, add fuel everywhere, still following the same trend where it's sort of leaning out. We reckon that we're approaching the limits of this KPM module on E85. So we are putting a pressure gauge in the fuel line at the moment so that we can actually watch it for this next run, see what the fuel pressure is doing. But given off the way it's responding to fuel changes and following this same trend where it's leaning out towards the top, we believe that we are pretty much getting towards the end of this module. It's not bad enough that we can't tune around it, I don't think. We should still have plenty of, I suppose, injector and everything else there to try and bring this back into a reasonable range, which is what we did last time. So that shouldn't be too bad, but it is definitely this module running towards the end of its ability. So you can see from that clip that it's dropping back to about 50 psi fuel pressure. This thing's always run super high fuel pressure. KPM seems to think that that's just how it should be, which it's weird to us. But anyway, whatever, it's been fine. So dropping to 50 psi, that's still plenty enough pressure differential across the injector for these to still get a good spray, and they're going to work fine, which means that we should be right just to sort of keep adding fuel where we need to in the map to pretty much get this thing running right, because, you know, 50 psi is not too bad. So we'll pretty much just keep an eye on that pressure, keep adding fuel, keep our tune going, and hopefully get this thing to its full potential on E85. But at the end of the day, this is pretty much it as far as the fuel demand for this thing goes. It's pretty much at the limit. So righto guys, so we ran out of time and daylight yesterday, but we're back into this thing this morning. Still on the A5 obviously. We managed to get it strapped to a point where it's not rocking so bad on the rollers and actually giving some consistent runs. So we're now at 85% duty cycle on the injectors, so you know we're getting up there with the injectors because of the lack of fuel pump. So if we had more pump, we'd have plenty of injector, but with the fact that this pressure's dropping off, we're starting to reach the limit of these injectors. But that's all right, because it's not making any more anyway. So with consistent readings, we got a 616. That's pretty much going to be it for this thing. You know, that's a nice clean run at 616. Obviously we had some much higher results, but they were all when it was rocking back and forward, which isn't a real accurate result because it rocks and changes things on the roller. So 616 is the number pretty much. That's the consistent, right, correct number from a good run. A little bit less than we were sort of hoping to see. The biggest things working against this are something that has been an issue since the very start, which has been IATs. So obviously we're turning this LSA blower quite hard. It's only a 1.9 litre LSA blower. It's starting to get up there as far as that goes. And then obviously the intake isn't the best as far as cold air. The ideal situation would be to actually set up an air box or even set up a cold air intake that goes down sort of behind the fog light there in the bar or something and get some cooler air into this thing. So another thing that would help a great deal would be an interchiller, like actually a bigger reservoir for the cooler setup for the brick to try and keep the fluid or the coolant in the cooler circuit a bit cooler and keep those IATs down there as well. So that would work twofold. At the moment, the fact that it's only an LSA blower turning really hard with only this cooler setup is working against it, and having that intake the way it's set up is also working against it as far as the IATs go. So bringing the IATs down, getting a bit more density in that air, I reckon this thing would do a lot better than it is at the moment. Even at the same timing, everything else, I reckon it'd make a lot more power. Not only that, but we'd probably be able to get a little bit more timing into it if it was like that anyway. But that being said, the owner is looking to build sort of the next vehicle. He's looking to build an actual play car, something that he can go crazy with. This really is pretty much just intended just to be his nice sort of street car, and he's happy with the power that it's making. That gearbox is rated to 650 at the wheels, which means he's not going to hurt the gearbox. The diff should hold up. All the driveline should stay pretty happy at this power, and obviously it's plenty enough to enjoy and have fun with. So I don't think he's too fussed about it. I don't think we'll see him put an interchiller or anything on it. He was talking about fixing the intake, but I don't think we'll see an interchiller on this thing. I don't think he wants to spend any more money on it. That's pretty much the number for this thing for E85. Not the 650 we were hoping for, a little bit short of that, but still pretty impressive for this thing. That's at 10 pound as well, so 10 pound E85 6 litre with our 1287 Crow cams in it. So Rex is just diluting it back to 98, a little bit more each time, keep doing runs a little bit more diluted every time, just to make sure the fueling is all right all the way back down to 98, and make sure the scaling for the flex fuel's all good. So we'll do that, and that'll be this thing sorted, and finally ready to go pump E85 with a built gearbox and have some fun. Alright guys, all sorted, tuned all the way back to 98 from E85 in increments, get the scaling right, and the flex fuel tune on this thing is finally finished. Now, the last flex fuel tune was pretty average really, done in a hurry before power play, so it's good to finally have this thing actually finished where we're happy with it, and you know, also having confidence in that box. So 616 is the number. This thing is just making a ridiculous amount of torque. Like we talked about, the tractive effort of this thing is literally just too much for our single retarded dyno to hold up to. It's outrageous, and on the street this thing is just a menace. So stoked to finally have it sorted after all this time. It's been a pretty long haul, lots of different stuff going on, but it's finally done, and I personally am stoked with it. I'm jealous that I don't own it, but it's yeah, it's freaking awesome. I absolutely love this thing. The grunt that it makes is just so sick. I love it. Anyway, if the owner sorts out some intake stuff to try and sort out some IAT issues, we'll run it back up and see if we can get a little bit more out of it as it is, but that's the only real thing that's probably going to change from this point. I don't expect to see any other changes. The owner has plans to put new wheels on it, and you know, now he's done all the suspension, all the bushes and stuff, the thing handles awesome. Actually driving it over here the other day, it doesn't seem to be any more rigid or rough than it was before. It actually drives really nice. So it's a freaking awesome car all in all, and stoked with it. So thanks for watching as always, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, see you, bye.